Hey, Coupley Fit fam, welcome back to another episode. Today we are talking about the $1 million marriage mindset, faith, vision, and finances.
Let's get into it.
Woo! So we stopped asking each other, how much money do we need? And we started asking, what kind of marriage are we building? That changed everything, and we're going to tell you how.
It's a shift in mindset. I'm so excited we're talking about this too because one, I think it's the energy of doing it together that makes such a big difference because that foundational piece is really what we're building on when it comes to the long-term vision.
Yes, and it's so needed, especially when we're talking about faith, vision, and finances and how all of these play a role in a marriage. So first, the foundation that you just mentioned, faith first, always.
Absolutely. When you mention faith first, one of the things that comes to my mind, people, I think when they think of faith is like that can't have the monetary things that you also want from a millionaire mindset. And there's not a disconnect there. You just have to, I think one of the things that we always talk about is how do we impact a million lives as well? Because if you can impact that many lives, the monetary things are going to figure themselves out, right? But it starts with that faith of how can I serve? How can we uplift, give back to our community, do more to create a broader impact? And that's going to drive the biggest results.
Yes, and I think for us, when we also talk about decision making when it comes to finances, our vision, even our faith, a lot of it is anchored in what we do every day, which is opening the YouVersion Bible app and being able to be anchored and centered in that message every day is something that has done wonders for us and really has continued to help us build the foundation and build upon the foundation, I should say, because we already had a great foundation before this. But then as we just daily are building on these little habits, we're just seeing that there's a major shift in mindset.
To your point on the Bible app, I love it so much too because it's right in your phone. And if you think about how much negative news is out there, like if you're watching the news every day, you're like, oh my gosh, like it's nothing but bad things that are happening for the most part or negative things compared to being able to get refueled, re-energized, going back to the word of, I know that I can have faith in this. I know that if I pray and ask for it, I will receive it. And it's aligned with God's word. And so without a doubt, that's just something that for both of us being on that journey has been incredible.
Yes, and something that continues to add to that is the fact that we pray together every day, whether it's just praying over a meal or just you'll come up to me and say, hey, do you want to pray with me today, right now? And I'm like, absolutely. So I think that just being able to pray with each other, even if it's for a minute, right, 60 seconds, that can be such a boost in your mood, but then it can also be something that's, again, going to continue to ground you and anchor you together and just build on that foundation piece.
And I just wanted to add to that because I think a lot of people sometimes in their journey, especially when you're talking about marriage and being in a relationship, everybody may not be at the same point when it comes to their faith journey, right? There can be different stages, but I think to what you just mentioned, even starting small, if it's you're getting on the plane, like when we're getting on the plane, we pray before getting on a plane together, just because, again, you're traveling, you know, there's so many things that are out of your control as you're, out and about and all of these things, just having that moment together and not overthinking it, just saying, Lord, thank you for the safe travels. And like that can be it together, but that's, getting together and doing it brings so much cohesion as well.
Absolutely. And there's also, if you want to ask yourself, what is God calling us to do together? Because now we're taking out the individual, this is what I want, this is what you want. But when we're able to sit down and say, no, what is God calling us to do? As a couple, what is God saying that is our direction, is our divine path? And again, like you said, everyone has a difference in their faith journey. But as long as you are working on it together and it's not just one person kind of going out on their own, although that's maybe how it starts, doesn't need to be how it ends.
100%. And I think, I love that you just mentioned that too, because I know people are on that journey together, and just this can be that reminder of it is always ongoing. And we are always asking other couples, like, how did you make it to 24 years, 50 years? Like, what are those keys? And we typically do hear that faith foundation is a big one.
Yes. And something that we heard probably about 5 years ago was that would try to build a cadence of praying with each other every night. And even if you're mad at the other person, being able to know that at the end of the night, we're going to pray together. And that goes back to even what we've mentioned before, where we've said, try not to go to sleep angry. And that was another key piece that we picked up over the years as well. And so I think that when you, again, can have God anchored in your daily life, you see the ways that he's able to prosper and give you what you're looking for on your divine path as you continue to grow together.
And it reminds me of something. This is going to, be a little bit old school, but people are going to remember the bracelets, the WWJD.
Yes.
What would Jesus do bracelets?
Come on now.
And if you think about it, like, what would Jesus do? It's forgiveness was so key. When you talk about the amount of times the Bible talks about forgiving, right? And so when you're in a relationship, and it could be something as small as forgetting to take out the trash, or, taking that last sip of whatever's in the fridge and not replacing it. And it's like, I can't believe it. Eating the last bite of whatever.
Yes.
The nerve of you. I couldn't believe it. But like, to go from that to, what, I can still forgive you. We can move forward beyond this. And I know there's obviously other things that people have happen in a relationship that are even more serious. But if you can still have that heart to forgive, but come together and pray, that just, it'll bring you so much closer together than having conversations with other people, talking
Correct.
about it on Facebook, right? Talking about it at the barbershop or at the beauty salon. Like, be able to come together. And I think that's going to bring, I know it's kept us together and close, but also it's helped a lot of other people that we've talked to as well.
And it's interesting because we're starting to watch Quarterback on Netflix.
Yeah, shout out to Jerry Goff.
So as you can see, that's part of the reason why we're watching. But what I really enjoy is seeing Kirk Cousins. And you see the way that he's rooted in his faith. And he was talking about when he was playing for the Vikings, he tore his Achilles. As he was in the tent, and the doctor told him, "You're done, buddy. You're done for the season." He said, "The first thing I did was pray. That was the first thing I did." And you're seeing that he had another opportunity come with the Atlanta Falcons. And so, again, it's that reminder, too. And he always talks about praying with his family, praying with his wife. You can also feel it, like even when he was doing his rehab. He was doing his rehab, he's singing, he is coming to a place where this is something that's happening, but it's not necessarily happening to me, right? Like, it's God. There's always kind of a message behind everything that happens, and there's a purpose behind it. Yeah. Although it may not seem like it when you are going through something like that, there is a rainbow on the other side of the clouds. And so it's just one of those things where we always talk about being rooted in that faith. It's so key. And I think Kirk Cousins was just a great example of that, just because we were watching that last night. So I just wanted to quickly bring that up.
But to your point, too, on Kirk Cousins, I think that's another great example of the foundation being in faith, like you said, but also that when you let faith and God lead your path, that doesn't mean you can't have the monetary goals or achievements.
Right.
I mean, Kirk Cousins not only is a multimillionaire, but he's created generational wealth for his family. Right. I want to say his career earnings are like over $350 million.
I know.
And he's like the most everyday guy, just like mellow, chill, like not a lot of bling or flash. Too much.
The
maybe
chains.
A little post game wearing his teammates' chains. That's always classic.
Yes, classic.
But I just think to that point, right? It's just I love that he's leading with his faith, because you don't always see that from people that are leaders. Sometimes it's kind of like, what do they believe? Like, where do they stand? You don't really know. And he's very forward facing, that like, God is the reason I'm here, the reason I overcame the injury. I just think that's really powerful from an example in the prime spotlight, and married with the family, because people kind of always show the negative, or, the athletes that have the crazy situations that are in the headlines of the news, not those that are really doing impactful things in the community.
Yes, and that reminds me of Tim Tebow.
Yes.
Come on now.
Man, Tim Tebow really took the world by storm.
That's what I'm saying. Took the world by storm. But you're seeing, too, though, that it's not like he's not getting opportunities because he's being forward-facing with his faith. I heard something the other day that I believe it was on the Jay Shetty podcast, and he said that you can go around and preach without saying a word. And that's simply by the way that you act. That's the way that you treat people. People can see God in you. They can see the light coming through you. I know that's something for us that we get often is that there's something about you guys. And we always say, it's not us, it's God. That's literally his light coming through us. We are just his shepherds, honestly.
And it reminded me of that quote also that that Colin Powell quote that was so powerful, talking about one of the measures of your character is how you treat someone that can do nothing for you and someone that can't defend themselves.
Right.
How do you treat those folks? And I think that's so important to be able to just continue to just do the right thing.
Absolutely. And so that's going to be talking a little bit more about the foundation and why it should always be faith first. After that, it's creating a shared vision.
I'll tell you what, when you talk about the shared vision, and I don't want to take us too off track here, but I hadn't, like I've always written down my goals since a young age, and that's been great. But something that we've done together that I love is the vision boarding. Like when we really
create a marriage vision board.
When we create our every year that we've created our joint vision board, really cut things out. And some people are like, what's a vision board? Like how, being able to really take out what we envision. And speaking from our experience, we'll literally cut out of magazines. We go on by magazines. We'll cut out of the magazines words, visuals. Really, it's mainly words, different fonts, shapes, colors out of different magazines. And we'll literally cut them out and tape, not tape, but glue them onto a piece of paper and then hang that vision board on the wall and be able to be inspired by that when we're at the table working, when we're in the office daily, right? There's different things about faith, different things about impact, things about maybe growing a family, all of these different elements that we're visualizing and planning for. But I love that we have our individual ones, which we don't lose that individual identity, because you are going to have your individual goals.
Yes.
But then having a shared vision together and vision board of this is what we want to accomplish as a unit, as a family together, and how we want to build.
Yes. And I know for us too, this is just us, right? This is not saying that you can't put the Ferrari on there, right? You can't put the extravagant, wealth forward-facing items on there. But something for you and I that we do is we like to be very purposeful and intentional on what's being put on the marriage vision board. Yeah. And a lot of it has to do with focusing around faith, focusing around love, focusing around finances, focusing around the big pillars in a marriage. Because what we've noticed is that the more that you're able to have that on a board or on a piece of paper, right, where you can just look at that every day, you don't lose sight of your vision. Right. So even if you stray off the path a little bit, you can still look at your vision board and you can come back together on that same path because you already know where you want to go. You know where the destination is. But, sometimes you can get off the beaten path. And so being able to get back and see that vision board, see what both of you have come together and created is extremely special. And it will just continue to really grow that marriage mindset. But then also, right, it's a millionaire mindset too, because you're taking the fact that not everything has to be monetary, because when we talk about what do we want in our principles, our values, our core, what's the core of our marriage, and sticking to that, right? Which even goes back to the foundation that we were talking about. So then after that, it's set 3 to 5 shared goals. So we just talked about that, right? Faith, health, money, parenting. What does that look like for you? And maybe I think that's a great way too, though, is to kind of start with those shared goals and then create the vision board, because that would make it a little bit easier, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think to your point on the shared goals, sometimes just having the conversation, like I think for some people that is just such a start, is like, hey, when is the last time we've asked our partner, like, hey, what kind of goals, like what goals do you have?
Yes.
And if that's an icebreaker at dinner, or maybe it's an idea to do a date night so that you can have this conversation and talk about it. But it's so key to be able to just lay it out on the line of like, where are we heading? What is the plan? No matter where we might be. Because I know there's some people out there that might be struggling. Sometimes, I mean, we've been there where the conversation is a little bit more gloomy because we're in a valley, not at the peak.
Right.
And we're like, ooh, we got to save how much to do what, to get where? But then when you get on the other side of those things and you're in that abundance mindset and you're creating momentum, so often if you're focused on the process and you know where you're going, right, and write the goals down, you're more than twice as likely to achieve them. And if you're doing it together, now you have the accountability, the check-ins, right, because it's a lot, just like they talk about biblically, right? If you send someone out, they wouldn't send someone out alone
I
because
was just going to say two can do it.
two can do it. Because if you go out by yourself, there's a chance that you don't come back. You can get lost or just come stray off the path. But if you have that accountability, that support, doing it together, and you're going, and I mean, it increases your chances of success.
Absolutely. And what you just mentioned with the two can do it, and that's something that is a part of our foundation when it comes to Couply Fit. But it is that motivation, the connection, and the shared goals and shared values. And here's the other thing too is you may ask your partner, hey, what are your goals, or where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? They may not know. Yeah. And that's okay. It's just every once in a while doing that check-in. Maybe it's once a month, right? And just saying, hey, how are you doing on your goals? How can I support you? Is there anything that I can do to help you get closer to figuring out what you want to do? Or even mentioning, hey, these are some things I've noticed that you just enjoy doing. Yeah. So maybe let's start there and just see where this goes. But it's a great way, again, to continue to open up communication, but then let the other person in your relationship know that I hear you, I see you, and I value you. And so I think that's really key, because it goes into our next tip here, which is align your dreams with your values. But specifically, I love this. It said, are we building a lifestyle or a legacy? Ooh.
Lifestyle or legacy is a big one, because right now the gram social media will tell you it's all about
lifestyle.
It's all about lifestyle.
Come on now.
Show me that it's lit.
Yes.
Show me that you're living lavish.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the reality is when you talk about legacy, a lot of those monetary material things, they're depreciating.
Correct.
You're not going to have them 10, 20, 50 years from now. And even, again, for us, some of the things that we look back on, we're like, oof. Like, I know some of the purchases I've made, some sneakers in particular, that I was like, you know what? I didn't need 3 to 4 pairs of that same shoe in different colors, or different things like that. But I felt like it looked great. But then later on down the line, I'm like, ooh, I mean, man, if I would have invested that, or if I would have done this with that, right. I mean, and just some of the basics, right? And I just appreciate that we're having a conversation. And I like that you mentioned too, just on your partner may not know what exactly it is right now. I mean, I think about the pivot of when, pivoting out of football, getting injured, not making it to the NFL, and being like, okay, what's next? Mm-hmm. Like, I just had a job, but I didn't know, like, I wasn't in my passion and purpose right out of the gate. I'm in the middle of pivoting. So there's a discovery phase that you're going through of like, okay, what do you enjoy? Okay.
Pivoting can take years. Okay. So that's what we have to, especially when you're also talking about a marriage. A marriage is a lifetime. Yeah. So you are there's seasons, right? And a pivoting season, you hope it doesn't take as long as a few years, but it can. And I think that's something that we have to be very mindful of when we're talking about the seasons of marriage, that there's going to be times where you're thinking to yourself, like, man, am I who I think I am? Am I on the right path? Should I be doing this? But again, that's going back to being rooted in your faith, because God will provide for you. As long as you are working the works, you are staying true to Him, you are doing what you can in order to be aligned with your divine purpose, He's going to open up the doors for you. He's going to close the door now. But when that door closes, sometimes you can look back and take a peek like, wait, hold on. Yeah. I think I want to open that door again, not realizing right in front of you there's a door that's wide open. All you have to do is walk through it. And so when we also were talking about lifestyle or a legacy, lifestyle to me is potentially for other people, where legacy is for your family.
Who you flexing for?
Who
are you flexing for? Come on.
Who?
I understand the feeling of wanting to like pull up and you want to stun or you want to get your shine on, right? The idea like stay down for the come up and like you put in the work, you want to treat yourself, but at the same time thinking about the big picture in the long game. Mm-hmm. Because it's
long game being keyword.
Come on, long game being the keyword.
It's not always about instant gratification.
And even if you do want to have some of that instant gratification, I'd love it's
not always about that, but yes.
For your instant gratification, because sometimes on the journey of getting to those goals, you might have a little monthly incentive for myself or whatever that is, but make sure it's something that you can afford. And I know like when we even talk about from like a millionaire mindset, what we've learned from some of the financial experts and some of the most successful people, one of the things was if you can't buy it 5 times, you can't
afford it.
said, wait,
Come
what?
on now.
If I can't buy it 5 times, I can't afford it? I was like, that
Well,
puts a
then
lot
I
of,
mean,
I was like,
then who can buy a house?
come on, it puts
Who can buy a house?
But even if we take
So,
but even if we take that perspective, sometimes it wouldn't be, maybe not jumping out there on $1 million house and making it a little bit more affordable and
Correct.
being able to not be stretched thin.
Yes. Well, that's a great segue into us talking about money. So when you're talking money, you want to talk with unity and not tension. Although that definitely sounds easier said than done, okay? Because when you talk about finances, it is top 3 reasons why marriages end up in divorce.
Oh yeah, when the money is funny and the change is strange,
Come on now.
people get to making moves. And a part of the problem too is like, hey, when you go through those lows or those situations, like, do you come together or does it drive you apart? And like you said, when you with lifestyle, social media is constantly telling you that basically everybody's balling. Like everybody's got it.
Right.
And it creates this idea that, oh my gosh, I need to be out there. I need to be at this event. I need to be at the concert, right? I need to be at Taylor Swift or Beyonce or whoever.
Yeah.
And it's like you're spending thousands of dollars that you may not have. Yes, it's going to be a memorable experience. I'm not knocking it. But like just putting into the big picture of like, if you can't afford it because right now this is not your season, understand that for you and your partner, just to be realistic with the expectations. Create the vibe. Maybe play it on YouTube at the house and y'all, make at-home concert, like be innovative, but don't put yourself in a situation where you're flexing for the lifestyle, but hurting the long-term legacy.
Correct. And so to your point, there is a difference between a money conversation and a money mindset shift.
Can you give me the difference, like an example?
Yes. So when you're talking about a money conversation, in my opinion, we are literally talking money. We're talking dollars and cents. We are talking budgets. That's what I believe it's the Excel spreadsheet comes out.
If nobody has an Excel spreadsheet overviewing the finances, that can be another conversation.
Yes.
Because
or an app that's tracking your finances.
Something that's giving you an overview.
Tracking so that you can also budget.
What's coming in, what's going out.
I didn't realize how many people do not have a budget, frivolously spending their money.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm not judging because a part of my mindset
I'm not judging. I'm just saying I didn't know that there were not that many people that didn't have a budget.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm with you. I was just saying that, like, even for me, some of my mindset before younger days was like, don't worry about the budget. You just got to make more. Get your hustle, get your grind on, and try to have that mindset. But in reality, if you don't know what's coming in and going out, it just makes it hard to plan for the big picture because it's like, wait a minute.
Well, then you don't know how much you actually need.
Exactly.
So you're talking about hustle more, hustle harder.
Yeah.
What are you hustling for? What's the end game?
You're right.
Just to get more money? Okay, but how much do you need? Right? So you have to start asking those questions. But when you talk about the money mindset shift, in my opinion, this is where we've also seen this on TikTok, where, just for the sake of what I've seen on TikTok, a husband will be recording his wife and his wife is on the computer and she's ordering all this stuff from Amazon or, these stores and she's shopping and he's like, hey, I told you, like, we don't have the budget for this month, or, we're not able to continuously spend like this because I'm the only one that's potentially working, or whatever your financial situation is. There needs to be a money mindset shift where, okay, he's telling me that we don't have the money, but what am I going to do in order for me not to spend the money? Well, let me think about why I'm spending the money first, right? Am I making the excuse that, oh, it's for the kids and they need new this and new that, or, oh, I need new this and new that? Well, do you really need that? Is that a want or a need? And then really looking back at, how do I spend money and how do I look at money? Because then you start having that conversation with yourself of, well, hold on, this may be some either trauma around money. There may be some childhood memories around money or what my parents have taught me that I am now taking into my marriage that may not be positive, effective, or even my significant other may feel as if they're not being heard because they keep telling me the same thing, but I keep spending money. And so I think it's just really interesting, the difference between having a money conversation and a money mindset shift. But I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it is a big difference in having. I think just first off, starting with either. Some people aren't having any conversations.
Correct.
And so I think starting off and having that dialogue and just opening the floor where it's like, hey, we're gonna make this a consistent conversation once a month or a quarter. Something that really jumped out at me that you said, that we actually were listening to a podcast. Billionaire Robert F. Smith Jr. was talking about growing up, they had everything that they needed, but not everything that they wanted. And I think that's a big difference. Is this a want or is this a need?
Yes.
So even for family, like put that into perspective. Hey, you have clothes, you have everything that you need, but you may not have the newest iPhone or every video game that releases, every pair of Air Jordans. But like that's not what you need. It's what you want. And so being able to set up for the long game, I think is just so big. But if you can have that general conversation of, hey, we're saving for this. This is what it's going to look like. This is what we're going to like budget and set aside. I think it makes it so much more realistic and attainable if we level set the expectations and have the conversation. Right. So now if Amazon is still happening or sneakers is still being delivered, it's like, hey, we talked about this, like,
we need to send this back.
This is, just to keep it real, there's some things that got to be returned.
This back. But to your point, right? Are we purchasing for a lifestyle or are these purchases for the legacy? And I think that can be another way to also look at it. But it's a great reminder that we need to continuously be looking at our own personal triggers. And specifically because we're talking money, what are your financial triggers? Yeah. What is something, I know we were just on a podcast and a gentleman said that he looks at sneakers as art. And we said, listen, understand, totally get it.
What was the sneaker budget?
Listen, he said, what do you think when somebody comes in with 3 pairs of sneakers through the door? And I just said, listen, that's sounding more like me and team rather than we. And so we need, and I said, did we have that conversation beforehand of, hey, we're going to purchase, I'm thinking of purchasing these sneakers. This is how much they're going to cost. And then let's compare this cost to our financial goals. Is this getting us closer or further away?
And I just want to say something too for the fellas right here. Do not feel like you're a chump for talking to your wife about the finances and it's not approval, it's being on the same page.
Yes, I feel like it's alignment.
It's alignment. Because so often, the barbershop, fella, it's always like this negative, like, oh, you got to get allowance, you got to check in with your wife to spend some money. But it's like, think about it like, if you play sports, you're the general manager of a team or the owner of a team, but you're the co-owner. Like you guys are both owners or co-owners. These decisions come to the table.
Well, there's a reason. There's a cap.
Correct. There's a cap.
There's a cap for a reason. This is how much we have to spend, and that's correct. It. We cannot go $1 over.
And there's ownership meetings. Like, hey, we need to come to the table and decide: are we making this move? Are we, the equivalent of maybe extending a franchise players? Are we buying this house? Is this a super max deal, or are we going a little bit more affordable? And I just think for the fellas having that like mindset shift of like, no, we're really going to be a team and we're building a legacy. We're building a dynasty of sorts. How do we do that? What type of collaboration are in those types of winning environments?
Yes, and to add to your point, which I love the example that you just gave, you're co-owners of a team like you just mentioned, but typically you have to talk to a GM.
That's true.
So the GM for a married couple could be a financial planner.
True.
It could be a CPA. It can be somebody that is just more financially stable than you, that is almost a part of like, you can build an advisory board, right? Where you're a little bit more open with the people that you know, like, and trust, trust being key, because it's hard talking about finances in general. And having that system, checks and balances, because you leave it up to 2 people. Sometimes it's like, listen, okay, the way that these cruise deals are hitting, let's get a cruise.
Vacay is vacationing.
Listen,
vacation.
I'm here for it. So I think, again, just having kind of an advisory board that will be able to help you get further. And something that my mom even mentioned to us was potentially doing, monthly or a quarterly family check-in. So this is taking a little bit step further than just marriage, but also what is the legacy that you're building together as an entire family with your your mom, dad, guardian, your grandparents, if they're still alive, right? What is it that you're building, and seeing ways that you can also collaborate? How can we maybe collaborate on finances where we want to invest into a property, and this is going to be a revenue generating property that's going to be something that all of us are going to have access to, but then we're also going to be able to have this piece of property, potentially the land that it's on, that we pass down. Now we're talking legacy. Yes, there's a little bit of lifestyle in there because you have maybe a vacation home, but now you're talking legacy piece. And so I think if you can also collaborate on finances, that's also another way to see what other people are doing that you may say, that's a great idea. I think we should replicate that in our household, or we're not quite there yet on the finances. You're in your 50s and 60s, and so you're in your prime of making money, and so you may not be there yet. But I think it's a great idea.
I love that you said that. I think a lot of people don't realize what your business prime is. Most people would think your business prime is 20s, 30s. Your business prime is actually 52 to 55. When you're in your actual business prime, which most CEOs, that's where you're making your maximum income and doing the most in your career.
Your 401k.
You've built your relationships. You've laid this foundation, all of the things. So when we think about laying that foundation early on, and for a married couple, being able to have the discussions, being able to start with the spouses, and then to your point, extending to the family, because it's so sad when someone passes away, or you're trying to plan for the future, and you're like, I didn't know that so-and-so owned this property over here.
Correct.
Or that we need to pay taxes on this over here. And because a lot of times, you're seeing people losing land or losing assets because of the fact that nobody knew that we needed to pay taxes on it, or even situations where having a conversation of, if so-and-so passes away, what are we going to do? Is this turning into a rental property? Are we selling it? And having the dialogue of amongst, maybe it's even siblings or whomever, because you don't want tragedy to happen or something unfortunate to happen. You've never discussed it. You don't know what their wishes were.
Exactly.
You don't know what the plan or the strategy is. And then sometimes, based on people's circumstances, you make short-sighted decisions that may not be a legacy decision or the most profitable long run, because someone maybe needed money today, right? And so I think that's such a millionaire mindset of laying the foundation, having smart people around you, the financial advisors, your network, surrounding yourself with other millionaire mindset people. And it doesn't have to be that they're already a millionaire, but do they have the mindset and the habits of someone that's progressing, getting better, striving for excellence? Because Nick Saban had the quote, mediocre people do not want to be around high achievers, and high achievers don't necessarily want to be around mediocre people. Yes, you can elevate them, but a lot of times they're trying to figure out, like, why are you doing this at that level? Why are you working so hard? Like, why are you doing all of that? But those are the things legacy-wise that lay the foundation for long-term success.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's a great way to segue into 3 tools for financial intimacy. And so 3 ways are shared goals, which we've talked a little bit about, monthly check-ins, which we do our monthly check-ins, and
I'll tell you what, when your numbers is in the green, these are a lot better conversations.
They're a lot easier to have those conversations when you are definitely not in the red. So monthly check-ins are fantastic. And then something else that I wrote down is grace over guilt. And I think that's a great opportunity for you to say to your spouse, hey, these are the steps that we need to take in order for us to be financially free. But if you are the spouse that is in the habits that maybe need to change, you're asking your partner for that grace and not guilting you, because you have to learn, you have to adjust, you're learning new habits, you're trying to re-parent yourself in some ways when it comes to finances, because I wonder how many of our financial decisions are rooted in what we've seen our parents do. And if your parents were not good with money, then maybe that's a reason that you also are need a little bit of help in that area. But giving grace to your partner for at least a little bit of time as they make the transitions. Yeah. And again, just like we talked about before, this may be something over 5 years. This may not be like, okay, next month, you're going to stop spending, you're going to stop doing this. No, that's not realistic. Let's be realistic. And when we're talking about unlearning, especially when it comes to finances, that takes a long time. And so just giving yourself that grace. But something else too, you can have joint budgets, right? Which you can have your joint account. I also didn't realize how many married couples have separate accounts and then their one joint account, which I've heard, mixed reviews on that.
Yeah, and I would say just from our experience too, I do like the transparency that we have around accounting and the accountability, because we both get a notification when money gets to coming out of the account. We're like, hey, did you?
Yes.
You're like, hey, did something weird happen? Whatever. But it's good because how many times do you hear people like these horror stories of so-and-so stole X amount of dollars out of my account, or things got weird and this happened. But it's like, man, if you would have had your partner checking, like we would have nipped this in the bud in the beginning, right? Not years down the line. And then, I also really like the fact that you mentioned when you're having these check-ins, not trying to make it cold turkey, going from $500 a month in Amazon or $100 a month in Amazon to zero.
Right.
But how do we make a shift? Like, hey, babe, okay, I see that we're spending on average $100 a month in Amazon. That's a lot. That's $1,200 a year. Okay. Right now, we're also eating out a couple $100 a month. If we pivot the eating out to eating at home and cook more from home, we can still do the Amazon shopping, but we just need to be able to create some cushion so that we're saving for the long term. Right. Like, that's an example of, I feel like, meeting in the middle and having a tangible way to be like, you're not cutting someone off from being able to still enjoy or maybe even splurge or buy things for the family, whatever, but you're also creating space to save more and be able to build that legacy over lifestyle.
Yes, and I believe that you're adding the guardrails in, right? If I know that my partner is not the greatest with finances, then maybe it's my time to say, okay, what I was saying to you before is not resonating. How can I say this in a different way that you're going to be able to connect with and start making some actionable changes? And the way that a lot of it comes down to communication, right? And as we know, that's a foundation in marriage, is being able to communicate. And we always say effectively communicate. So it can be outrageous being transparent with your partner and saying, hey, I've said this before. This is how I worded it. How did you feel when I said that? And they may say, I actually felt triggered.
I was
ready to jump on you. No, I'm just kidding. I was feeling triggered. And then asking your partner, what can I say to you in order for you not to feel triggered, but for me to be able to get my message across that we do need to focus on our finances more and work towards our shared goals. And I think if you keep bringing it back to shared goals, what are we doing? What are our goals? What's our vision? It takes that guilt out, where it's almost I'm finger pointing at you. It's all you. You're the one spending the money. And then you kind of just feel like, well, I'm just going to keep spending. You're already treating me like a child anyway, so I'm just going to keep spending. Or you're acting like my parent now, right?
Yeah, nobody wants to be parented either, right? Like, I feel like you're in a partnership. You don't want that feeling of like, oh, you're looking over my shoulder, or you're, right. So I think asking how do you want to receive the information does matter. Because it could be as simple as the wording of what we call it, calling it a budget that we have, or this is what we have that's fixed as a budget, versus saying this is somebody's allowance, right? Yes. Which I heard diabolical. Somebody said that online. I was like, wait, what?
Yes.
Because it makes somebody feel like, wait, who
child
allowance, child? Like, that's not teamwork and co-ownership in that sense, I think, for a lot of couples. So, I mean, these are just really great foundational pieces when it comes to the millionaire mindset that are actual ways where we've talked to, I would say probably hundreds of couples that we've got a chance to talk to, but also there's stats around the fact of becoming millionaires. There's a significant increase for being married that increases your chances and your growth of your overall wealth.
Of course. And that goes back to also having a partner and being able to do it together. Yeah. But somebody can also drain you of that wealth as well. So That's true. You do have to be very mindful of just, in general, who you choose as your partner. That's a whole nother podcast episode that we'll have to get into. But just quickly bringing it back, utilizing apps is something too for us that I've really enjoyed. I even saw a stat in one of the apps that I was using that said on average, people spend $100 on subscriptions. So I think just starting there on your subscriptions, how much are we spending on all of these streaming platforms and just everything that you have? And where are the areas that we can cut back, which goes back to having a budget and knowing where your money is going. Because then you're going to look sometimes and say, I literally didn't know that we have 3 DoorDash subscriptions. That's crazy. That's crazy, right? And so being able to know where your money is going is also empowering, not necessarily in the beginning, because it's like you're kind of in that shock of, whoa, this is a lot of money that's going out. And I saw a stat too that said on average, people are spending 95% of their entire salary every year, which goes into the stat about 70% of people are living paycheck to paycheck.
It's real. And these are even people that are millionaires,
multi-millionaires.
It's just because you have the money or the assets or those things doesn't mean that you don't have the bills that accompany them, right? And you may be overspent or overextended. And that's just a great call out too on exactly what you mentioned of creating long-lasting plans and goals and doing it together, because it makes a huge difference.
Yes, and just quickly, just to give some ways that you can start building wealth too, and you start talking about the legacy piece, there are just like some really easy ways that you can do that. Number one, if you are a W-2 employee, try to max out your 401k. Every month, try to max that out. Number two is going to be having a savings account, but specifically a high yield savings account. That is extremely important because you're compounding your dividends essentially. And then there's also the ability, again, we talk about having a budget. A budget is a key way to know where your money is going, how much is coming in and how much is going out. And to your point, that may also have to be a conversation that you have to have with your kids where, I know even for myself, when Christmas came, my parents were very forward with us. Guess what? It's 2 presents and nothing is going to cost over $100. That's it. That's all we have for Christmas. That's all we can do. And it really does. It helps your children, in my opinion, just being on that other side of my parents telling me that. Number one, I was said, okay, that's transparent. I mean, it's the honesty and transparency piece, but then it's also you're telling me that just because I want something doesn't mean that I'm going to get it, and doesn't mean that it's a need that will help me in the long term. It really does temper your expectations as you get into the real world, and especially when you hit college and you're living on your own, and if you don't have a quote unquote allowance from your parents that are paying for your education or, paying for your dorm room or everything, if you're doing it on your own, you start realizing, ooh, okay, $1 does not extend as far as I thought, especially now as we're talking about inflation, but it just tempers your expectations.
No, you're so right. I remember being a kid and I used to always be upset of like, how come we don't have any of the premium channels? Like,
why don't we have the premium channels?
why did it say I need to call somebody to watch HBO in here? And I was like, oh, Pops.
Well, first off, HBO is very grown.
But you get what I'm saying. Any of those channels, I'm like, how come we don't have access? Oh, we're not.
Oh, no.
But now
knowing, I said,
as an adult,
we need, matter of fact, we went from premium channels to basic cable to no cable.
I just need internet.
Done.
We're on YouTube, but to that exact point, right? It really was a shift in mindset. And I would say the millionaire mindset comes with sacrifices. And so something that was a big sacrifice for me, I love football. Sunday football, you can watch football all day. I was doing fantasy football. I'm not missing the games.
But you also bought the package.
But here's what I was going to say. Yes, bought the package, but as far as investment of time and money, the fantasy league had a buy-in.
Correct.
The time was like 10, 15, 20 hours a week researching all this fantasy football stuff. I was like, man, I'm the GM of this fantasy football team. This is not making me any extra dollars. Then you're watching all the games because you got like all the players that you want to see how they perform. And I'm like, I really only care about the Detroit Lions. I say all of this to say it was a shift in mindset. And now, wait, if I don't need all of this and I'm not watching all of the games, like what really matters? Okay, let's watch that one game at least during the week.
Patriots.
Okay, 2 games, 2 games during the week. but everything else, like I can watch the recap of things on YouTube.
Correct.
In 10 or 15 minutes, and I got that time back to be more productive. But I feel like those are the shifts where, again, people that are very efficient and making the most use of our time and are operating at a high level, like they're really focused on how do I create the biggest impact. And there's probably not the biggest impact in 12 hours of watching games or, some of those things that could be offset in more productivity.
Kevin O'Leary said something very simple but yet profound. He said, wealthy people have discipline. And please listen to our last episode where we talked about discipline and micro habits that you have to build upon. It's, again, very simple, but yet profound. Are you disciplined enough that when everybody is purchasing these, Prada sunglasses, these designer, proud of me because you're proud of me.
Proud of me because you proud of me.
When everyone's purchasing the designer bags, or you see a sale pop up, and because you're constantly being marketed to.
Everybody's pulling up in the bins.
Right? You're constantly being marketed to. Do you have the discipline to say no? Do you have the discipline to say, that is not going to further my legacy? That's going to just fuel my lifestyle.
And it doesn't have to be a long-term no. It could be a not now.
Correct.
Stay down for the come up. Because there's things that we have on our long-term vision board that are not a right now today, right. But you make the sacrifices and have the discipline now let's just be honest. How many people set a goal for a wedding or a vacation? It was like, yo, I want to be body goals, suns out, guns out during vacay. I'm going to really stay focused and make the sacrifices on what I eat and how often I go to the gym and just me being focused leading up. And you just absolutely feel your best whenever that time comes. And it's like, yo, it was worth it. It's the same way with the long game for the finances. It's just sometimes it's easier to think about it when it's visual and like maybe a weight goal or something like that. But the finances, it really compounds. And again, it's setting yourself up for the long-term legacy and foundation for your family.
Yes. And to your point, we're talking about living in alignment. And when you're living in alignment with your spouse, it allows you to have a mindset that's around faith, vision, finances, but it shows up in your daily habits. And that's what we talked about even in the last episode around discipline, was micro habits and how important those are to build upon every day, because you're going to build that muscle of, okay, I know that when I see something pop up and I'm marketed to, I like to jump on it. I'm never going to see this again. This is never going to come out. It's very similar to me with J's. When Jordans come out every year, the way that people flock to get the Jordans and are spending their last on purchasing these pair of shoes, when now, don't get me wrong, I understand the limited edition, but it's genuinely, it's pretty much the same sneakers that are coming out.
Everything's limited edition until it comes back out again.
That's it. Come on.
In another color.
Come on.
But I feel that because I used to be one of those people that was outside in line.
Yes.
Or I knew the guy that to reserve the sneakers. And it was like Christmas.
Some people love the thrill.
The thrill.
Find the thrill somewhere else.
There's still nothing like unwrapping a pair of Jordans on Christmas. And really it's any sneaker, but a pair of Air Jordans on Christmas. Oh my gosh. For me, that gives me nostalgia from childhood.
But you're telling me one time a year.
That's true. Oh, and just so you know.
This is not every launch that's happening. There's some months where there's a couple that are coming out.
But to your point, that was one of the things you mentioned, your parents with the $100 cap. My parents, I got one pair of Air Jordans typically per year on Christmas or my birthday, and those became my basketball shoes. Don't even wear them outside. Your old basketball shoes are now your new kick around shoes.
Outside.
So just putting those, you have what you need, not everything you want, because I wanted the ones that came out every month. I'd have 12 pairs if it was up to me.
I know you would. So this is going to also talk about how you need to celebrate the small wins, yes. Right? And stay accountable to your shared growth. So this goes into, I'm going to actually quickly speak about the next point I have, which is that speak life into your partner. Start your sentences with, I'm proud of you for. I'm proud of you for not purchasing that coffee. I'm proud of you for not making, the right now, I think it's Amazon. What is it? Amazon Prime Day. Ooh. I'm proud of you for not taking full advantage of Amazon Prime Day.
Somebody's listening to this with their cart full right now.
Listen, and just to be fully transparent, we do have some things in our cart, but they are things that we actually need that are going to make our lives better and organized. And so I hear that though. But then also saying, I see you. I see you making a change. I see you growing. I see you trying. That is one thing, right? And we always talk about effort in marriage, but are you putting in effort to also try to change your financial mindset or your conversation around money? And if the person is trying, that goes back to the grace over guilt. Give them the positive affirmation that they need or kind of need. I think everyone kind of needs that little bit of boost of like, yes, I thank you for seeing me because I am trying and it's very difficult, but I'm doing it.
100%. And I also, for those that don't know, that's one of the 5 love languages.
Yes.
Is positive affirmations. Mm-hmm. And so being able to provide that and starting with that, it's also like the sandwich method, right? Of giving something positive before maybe also delivering like, hey, we got to be mindful of this, and following up with like, I'm proud of the progress that you see that we've been able to do and what we're been able to achieve together. I'm proud of us because it's so huge to recognize when you're making strides together in those little adjustments, but when you're on that path together, it's reassuring. And even your kids or other people in your family, your friends, you start to be the model or the example because people are like, wait a minute, I saw you're playing the long game. Like, oh, how did you guys afford to go on that vacation or do that a year from now? It's like, no, well, we saved $10 a month because we cut back on our subscriptions, or we did X, Y, and Z, and it's been able to really allow us to plan for the future, and we're doing these other things that give us longevity and long-term wealth.
Well, interesting enough, something I wrote down here is emotional wealth, which something we always talk about is peace. Protecting your peace, but having peace, purpose, and trust. Those 3 in a marriage, let alone in your financial situation, are key. There's nothing worse than stressing about your financial situation. Man. We have been there. It is not a place you want to be or stay or come back to. Like we could almost shed a tear because, honey, we've had pre-foreclosure notices on our home. We have had some significant, and please visit some of our older episodes where we genuinely talk about our struggles. And so we are coming to you and are talking to you as people who have made the changes, who have had the money conversations, who have had the money mindset shifts, because we have been there. We know what it's like to put your card into the gas pump. It says declined, to not be able to have to literally open up a credit card because we can't afford tires. I mean, we've been there, and there's nothing like, my heart even is racing a little bit because and I don't have peace.
And I visually saw each one of those moments. I know the gas pump, and it humbles you.
It felt like everything.
But to that point in the scripture, John 3:30, he must increase, but we must decrease. So how do we humble ourselves from even realizing that some of those things, whether it's material things or even just the pride of life of like, how am I here? Like, I shouldn't have to deal with these things. I shouldn't have to drive Uber, or I shouldn't have to, do this sacrifice right now in addition to work or, on the side because I'm in a tough spot. But know that you're building right now for that legacy, that you're sacrificing a lifestyle today for something bigger for your family.
Right, because your emotional wealth matters more than your net worth.
Absolutely.
And having that mindset that I am going to be where I want to be, but it's going to take time. Yeah. We're going to do this together. And again, coming back to the team component, you are in this together. And so when you can start looking at your habits and start looking to see where you are spending your money, it's also a gut check.
Come on now.
Of like, whoa.
Did I need the bang bang chicken and shrimp?
Or do we need to eat out as much as we do?
No, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just thinking about how many times you're hosting events and doing things for other people.
You know what?
You got 20, 30 people at your house. You catered the meal. You did all of this. And you're like, wait, I just made sure everybody else had a good time.
I'm over here stressing.
cleaning up, packing up.
I don't have peace.
Other people got too turned up at the function, and you're like, wait a minute, how did the fire truck get here? What happened? All of these things, and it's like, wait, we could have had a great. And I just think that's been such a game changer for us too, of like really making it more about us and like, wait, what do you want for your
Right.
birthday or for our anniversary? And it's like quality time,
Right.
or something low key. And it's like, wait, I was about to do this big grand extravaganza, flexing for people that don't really care.
So here's a challenge that we have for you all. Whether it's this week or just when you have your monthly check-ins, we want you to ask each other, what are the top 3 shared goals for this year?
Yeah, and the vision board, these are all pieces that are tangible that you can do and build on no matter where you are in your relationship, in your marriage, in your journey, to be able to just enhance what you're already doing. And it's such a game changer because I think just it allows you to unlock another level. And it's taken us years and also a ton of conversations with a lot of successful married couples, people that we aspire, like we've got some great, kind of couples that have been mentors for us that have provided tons of value that have allowed us to say, wait, that's something that we definitely want to take with us that we can share with, other people to be in a position to grow that legacy as well.
Next is going to be our weekly check-in day will be. And having that set on your calendar, it's a Google Calendar invite. I know we do. It's called our strategy meeting. And it's every Wednesday. It's typically at 5:30, but interesting enough, I feel like we maybe need to switch that because after work, we're too tired. And so I think maybe having that earlier in the day is even something that we're going to transition into, but realizing, okay, where do we have the most energy? And when, and then also where do we need to be when we're talking about money? Because if we're in the house, I might be feeling a little triggered. But if you get me out of the house and, you kind of take me on a little bit of a date, but it's not like it's a money date, right? Where we're talking about our finances, but you feed me, right? Give me a little like pastry and coffee or tea, right? Just to make it a little bit more of what your other person may be looking for. But those are just some of the questions that you can start asking. But having a specific day every week that you just check in, or even monthly is critical.
Yeah, and we're in a time where AI is changing the game too. So if you're nervous about what prompts you should say, what questions you should ask, how do I present this information, what are some places to go that I can have this talk that's like quiet but also intimate to have the conversation, use your tools. Right? Ask AI, ask ChatGPT, and see what comes back to you and allow that to help build a framework to come to your partner or spouse and say, like, this is how we want to build, or even some ideas on goals and aspirations. If you don't have some from the start, I know you like to do this. What are some things that could spark passion, excitement, or goal setting for me or my partner? These are the things that we currently enjoy.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned ChatGPT or just using AI, because you can come up with your budget. You can tell them what your long-term goal is and how do I get there. You can ask, what are some prompts for my spouse for me to ask them about money and have them not feel triggered. You can be very specific on ChatGPT, and we like to use the voice feature because when you're just talking into your phone, it's a great way too for you to be able to not have to mentally carry all of that and just speak it. Just keep talking and just speak it. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. So we have 3 more challenges. We want you to also talk about what is our financial goal we're focusing on this quarter. Right? That's just what we were talking about before. You said something about with the Amazon or in subscriptions. Hey, we're going to transition from some of these subscriptions. We're going to maybe take that $100 down to $75, right? It's those small changes. We're not going cold turkey like you mentioned, but what are the small changes that we can do this quarter in order for us to get closer to our financial goals? Then go into 3 words that define our marriage vision. Ooh, that's key.
It's powerful. And I'm just
very
thinking,
powerful.
That's prompting me. I'm already just thinking like, we talk about the legacy. We talk about servant leadership or impact, right? We talk about giving back and also just, love being at the foundation, faith. I mean, those are just some of the key words that are coming to mind for someone that's like, ooh, where do I start? What what do I say, or how do I go from here? And it's like those are some of the things that are long-term sustainable success, not just like flash or
Yes.
rich or those
Yes.
types of things.
And even going back to some of the words we used before was peace, purpose, trust,
Yes.
grace,
Yes.
right? Those are also some words too that we can add in. So I love what you mentioned. And lastly is one verse or affirmation that's going to anchor us. And so I believe you mentioned Philippians 4:13 earlier.
I didn't, John 3:30, but
Oh.
Philippians 4:30, I appreciate you.
Yes, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me.
On
And
our board in our office.
It is. And that's something we look at every day. And although there is an I am statement in front of that, or I can, change that to we can. We can do everything with Christ at the helm. And so I think that's a great way. And then also just having an affirmation, right? We like, what is almost like your team, your marriage tagline, right? Like that you can rally behind.
I believe that we will win.
I believe that we will win. That's exactly what I thought about. That's exactly what I thought about. So yeah, I mean, what do you think?
No, I think these are so many keys, so many things that have been breakthroughs for us. It's a continual journey too, because it's not about getting to a million or getting to a millionaire.
Like actual dollars.
How do you keep it? How do you have that mindset for longevity, long-term success? Because there's a lot of people that have got to a goal and then lost it, and they're telling the story about what they used to have. So that longevity and foundation, everything that we shared, I feel like, and I know, not only has it been a game changer for us and things that we've learned from those that are doing it at the highest level, but now we've seen it in practice and how it's impacted our marriage, our financial house, and how we're growing the legacy over just a lifestyle.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Coupley Fit fam. If you are watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. As always, follow us on social media at Coupley Fit, COUPLEYFIT.